Welcome to the fourth Fuwa KH technical instructional video. Today we'll be focusing on the installation of the brake booster and both the manual and auto slack adjusters. Today I will be making reference to the installation, maintenance and service bulletins under brake booster and slack adjusters. Booster bracket has three locations. Bottom being A or 5-inch, middle being B or 6-inch, top being C or 7-inch. Today we have installed the booster to the 6-inch position. Now we will need to cut the booster rod to the correct length. Prior to installing any drum brake booster to an FKH axle, you must first identify the axle. To identify the axle, you must refer to the ID tag fitted in between the brake booster brackets. Once you have identified the bracket, refer to the model number. All model numbers will refer to 2 letters and 2 numbers. This axle we are setting up is a KF22. Prior to cutting the rod, ensure that there is no air in the booster and the rod is fully extended. Place the measuring tape against the face of the booster, not the face of the bracket. Measure out to 239 millimeters using the lock nut as a guide. Now cut the booster rod. Now we install the clevis till it's 1 to 2 threads out past the end. Nip it up by hand. Now we need to apply 6.5 bar to the booster to retract the rod. Prior to installing the manual slack adjuster, apply some grease to the splines. Next, install one washer, the manual slack adjuster, one more washer, and the circlip. Now using a 3/4 socket, clockwise adjust the slack adjuster to the clevis pinhole lines up. Next, install the clevis pin and split pin. Next, using a shifter and a 24mm spanner, tighten the lock nut against the clevis. Now adjust the slack adjuster clockwise all the way till all the 3 play is taken up. Now the brakes are locked on and the wheel will not rotate. Next, we will back the slack adjuster off anti-clockwise 3 clicks or approximately 1/4 of a turn, ensuring the wheel is rotating freely. Now with 6.5 bar, apply the service brakes and check the angle of the slack adjuster, ensuring that the slack adjuster and booster bracket are parallel to each other at 90 degrees. Now we are going to install the auto slack adjuster. The installation of the booster and cutting of the rod is the same as the previous manual slack adjuster. Ensure that the booster rod is fully retracted by applying 6.5 bar of air into the park brake chamber. Now install the clevis to the booster rod until it is flush with the end of the thread. Now using the supplied installation tool, slip it over the splines and locate it into the clevis. Fit the larger clevis pin first, clipping the tool into position. Next, install the rear pin into the rear hole. At this point, if force is required to fully install the smaller rear pin, the hole is not lined up correctly. You will now need to readjust the clevis. You will need to remove both pins and the installation tool. Rotating the clevis clockwise will shorten the length of the rod. Rotating the clevis anti-clockwise will lengthen the rod. based on our current clevis location, I will need to extend the rod length by rotating the clevis anti-clockwise, ensuring that the rear smaller pin is installed freely, with ease, no force required. Now wind the locking nut into the clevis and install the auto slack adjuster. Now using a single hex quarter socket, rotate the slack adjuster clockwise to install the pins. Install the front larger clevis pin first. Now the rear smaller pin. As you can see, no force required. Now using a shifter and a 24mm spanner, lock up the clevis. Now continue adjusting the slack adjuster clockwise until all the slack is taken up. The wheel should now be locked. Now back the slack adjuster off half a turn anti-clockwise. Apply the brakes a few times, allowing the auto slack adjuster to adjust to the correct position if required. Ensure the wheel is rotating freely. Ensuring the slack adjuster and booster bracket are parallel to each other at 90 degrees when the brakes are fully applied. This concludes our video on the setting up of the brake booster and slack adjusters.